Alright, so this video might be kind of a hard sell for you guys because I'm gonna be essentially looking at a really rational position that I think we all have and saying there's something wrong with it. So if you disagree with me, that's fine, I really can't blame you. We are used to games coming out and not exactly being what we hoped for. Whether there's false advertising, just a broken botched launch, it could be 100 different things these days, but video games come out and end result's the same. We're not incredibly happy. But then, in a twist that nobody sees coming, the developers put a lot of sweat, blood, and tears into the game's revival. They do massive patches and updates that bring the game into relevance once more. This could be through paid or free DLC, it could be through bug fixes, it could just be through a rework of the game's core mechanics. I'll never get over the fact that Ghost Recon Breakpoint's big selling point at the moment is that you can go into the settings and essentially turn off what made Breakpoint, Breakpoint. Then you can get the game you wish you purchased. Some games launch and they're not necessarily broken or unplayable, they're just kind of underwhelming, but over time and with a lot of updates and love and some relevance driven by influencers, the games somehow become something no one ever thought they would. Played. Games like Rainbow Six Siege or Destiny 2 are still being played today because of the dev support behind them, the reworks, the patches, and all of the stuff that, keeps people coming back. And the rational position that I think is actually completely flawed and is hurting the industry is that when a game comes out and has some massive issues, let's just say for lack of a better term the game is broken, it's easy to dislike it. It's a bad product. I know some of you out there don't like looking at video games as products, and any pragmatic statements about them being products causes some undue triggering in comment sections and Twitter threads, but look, they are a product. I know there's love involved and art involved, I know they're an experience, and I know some of you derive all of your value from how good you are at a video game. Look, I know it's easier to essentially describe yourself as a lover of art and a lover of experiences when talking about video games, but what we are is a lover of products. So, when a product is bad, you don't like it. And when a product comes around, when a product fixes itself, when a product is improved massively over how the product launched, it's hard to stay angry. It's hard to still hold that negative opinion when the situation changes. So that's pretty rational and it makes a lot of sense. It's a product, not a person, so when it comes out bad and it fixes itself later, it's easier to love it, especially if it's a game that really spoke to you with its marketing material, or maybe its basic premise, or it's a part of a long-running franchise that you just can't let go of. So like Halo and Battlefield, regardless of what state they're in now, if the developers are able to pull a 180 and get these games back into relevance and give them a high player count and start showering us with free content that's actually interesting and worthwhile to come back for, it's gonna be hard to stay angry, and you're not gonna be really well received if you're on Twitter holding a grudge over how the game launched months and months ago. But therein lies the issue. Developers and publishers know that this is a trend that is just a permanent part of the industry at this point. It's not the 2000s, it's not the 90s, it's not the 80s. You don't release a game and if it's bad, nobody buys it, nobody plays it. You release a game that's bad, and then several hundred gigabytes worth of updates later, the game is, top charts and, at least has a stable player base or is a good revenue farm. Developers and publishers know this. They can look at a game and go, we can release this now, it'll get some fans, mostly haters, it's not gonna be great, it's not gonna take over the world, but when our redemption arc comes around, we'll be the game that got fixed. Like, honestly, in the comment section, raise your hand if a friend of yours has ever come to you and said, hey, remember that really shitty game? It's better now, you gotta get it, you gotta download it, they just added this thing, they just fixed this problem, you gotta come back in. I mean, look, with Call of Duty Vanguard and me, they had an aim assist issue that was discovered in December and had permeated all the way through March until like the last couple of days. Now I'm excited to stream and play Vanguard and cover it because the aim assist issue is fixed, so I can actually respect gunfights in the game again. I can focus on issues that aren't related to my aim assist clicking off in the middle of a gunfight and causing me to have a stroke. It's hard to still be mad at Vanguard when my biggest issue with the game has been fixed, and then I can focus on other issues, and as a content creator this is great, right? But on larger scales, something like Battlefield 2042, you have to see this coming, will eventually, unless DICE and EA cancel any plans, it'll eventually have a comeback. By the end of this year, 2042 will have enough love and content and updates poured into it that a fan base will grow. And if you say that's not true, that's not possible, I'm here to tell you that Cyberpunk 2077, despite all of its bullshit marketing, the fact that the developers straight up lied, and we were given one of the most buggy games of all time, Cyberpunk is now in the most played section of Xbox. It's up there with games like the newest Call of Duty and other free Game Pass games. No Man's Sky has a player base and a fandom. Battlefield 4 was one of the worst AAA shooter launches of all time, and now it's considered one of the best Battlefield games to revisit almost a decade later. Now, not every developer and publisher wants to repeat this pattern of release a bad game and then spend millions of dollars fixing it so that people can come back for your redemption arc. I'm not saying they want that, but I'm saying that's what we give them. From the consumer side, whether it's intentional on their part or not, it happens. So what are you gonna do? You're a big Halo fan, so if by the end of this year Halo Infinite is one of the best shooters of all time, are you really gonna hold its launch over its head? I mean, so many people on Twitter right now are going, hey, look at all these other games that launched poorly and now are doing well. Infinite can do the same. But shouldn't we be sick of this trend? Shouldn't we do something to tell developers that this is not how you run a business? Something that lets the publishers know that if a bad game comes out of your company, you can't fix it with patches and promises. The problem is Halo Infinite will probably take the rest of this year to be worthy of being a launch Halo with an actual Forge mode and co-op campaign and enough multiplayer maps to actually launch with. Probably some new weapons, some good playlists, and an actual good live service model. Everyone's gonna look back at the launch and go, that was so silly. And my question to you is that okay? Is that a problem for you? Because it's starting to become one for me. Because while Halo Infinite being better is great for Halo Infinite, if it's able to collect a player base after its horrible launch and its horrible live service practices, then it's not good for the Halo franchise. It's not good for the AAA market. It's not good for gaming. Do you think if Battlefield 2042 makes a 180 and just takes the world by storm, that's gonna be good for the future of Battlefield titles? Where you get charged for what is essentially a beta testing experience and the game is finished over a year later? The reason this is hard is that you have to grow up a little bit and look ahead to the future, which is, in my opinion, one of the largest staples of getting older. You don't look in the moment to wonder, oh, what's Halo Infinite going to do? You look in the future and go, what is Halo as a franchise going to be? Outside of gaming into maybe a political space, it's hard to look at something that's good for somebody in the moment as something that could potentially spiral out of control and be a damage to society down the line. The acceptance of something one day could be great in the short term, and the repercussions of which damage the industry or the society it's taking place in forever. Now, I don't believe video games should be perfect at launch. I expect some frame rate issues and some balance issues and a couple of bugs throughout the first 3 months or so of a game's life cycle. Even Elden Ring, the masterpiece that it is, had a bunch of annoying little bugs and issues that affected my gameplay experience, and the patch that fixed most of them came after I beat the game. So my New Game Plus experience is probably going to be awesome, and my new characters that I make in the game are going to be awesome, but at launch I was unfortunately let down. But of course that's on a much smaller scale than the fact that I couldn't even play Call of Duty Vanguard with a straight face, knowing that my aim assist was going to click on and off, or going to play Halo Infinite and playing the same 6 maps over and over and over again with no new playlists and no new meaningful content. Do you see what I'm saying here? Sometimes the repercussions are difficult to swallow because they're out in the future. And this video doesn't even get into the nuances of a game that's potentially, as a piece of software, really solid, but the design leaves players wanting and begging for more. Now, I will say here at the end, I do respect developers that put the time in to listen to their fans and fix the issues people are complaining about in order to bring their game up into relevance through the timeless act of prioritizing quality. I'm just sick of buying games that needed another year or two in the oven. It's getting tiring because I want to be excited when I see a video game trailer, but instead, I'm in a permanent wait and see mode with every trailer that comes out. And it's even a bigger shame to see this in the long-running franchises I've been playing since I was a kid. So it's upsetting, frustrating, and I think what's more frustrating is that people are so quick to forgive because it is the rational thing to do when it comes to a product, but then it becomes this feeling of no good deed goes unpunished, no good nature goes unpunished, and so you give them an inch and they take a mile. What are you gonna do? See you when I see you guys. Goodbye.